Welcome to a special episode of Red Tinted Glasses. This week we're joined by former Aberdeen player Richie Byrne. Richie, welcome to the show.
How's it going, guys? And thank you for having me.
Thanks very much for joining us. And Callum, exciting to have a former player on.
Very, very excited. A bit more positive Aberdeen-related content for you, so hopefully people will enjoy.
Yeah, I'm sure they will. Richie played 59 times for the Dons, scoring twice. Although we did speak on before recording, you did play in 10 friendlies and you also scored 4 times in friendlies. So maybe your stats are slightly altered, but fond memories of your time at Aberdeen overall?
Yeah, guys, I would have to say it's the longest I've spent at any club professionally, apart from my boys' club in Dublin. So, of course, it's going to be very close to my heart. You know, it's a fantastic club. I had a great time there. Met some amazing players, and obviously the management were fantastic as well. Obviously I knew the management from Dunfermline, and they brought me up to Aberdeen. So I spent all my time basically in Scotland with those guys, and they brought some of the players from Dunfermline up to Aberdeen. So it was a great time. I have to say, it was an amazing time to play football.
Yeah, and I think those of you that are tuning into this episode that follow Richie on social media will see on his Instagram, he does post pictures more often of him in his Aberdeen kit than any other team. I think it's fair to say. So obviously it does come across that there is fond memories there. You signed for Aberdeen in January 2005, like you said, from Dunfermline. We will get into that in a little bit, but we'll just take it back to the beginning of your career. What was it like growing up in Ireland and playing football in Ireland? Obviously, you played 56 times for Shamrock Rovers before moving to Dunfermline. So just kind of give us a bit of an insight into your career in Ireland.
It's football in Ireland. When I started playing football, it's seen as an English sport. So in our schools in Ireland, we have Gaelic football. So you play Gaelic football or hurling. And if you want to play soccer, it's a little bit of the teachers don't really like you to play soccer. So I wasn't great at Gaelic football, right? You got to use your hands, you got to solo the ball as you run, and you have to. There's certain things in it you're allowed to do that you're not allowed to do in football. So you're allowed to fight in Gaelic football. So you're allowed, but you have to fight with your near hand, if you understand. You're allowed to punch them and slap them. And I couldn't really understand it. I would just hit them. And then one time we had a game, and this team had a girl playing, and she was unbelievable, and she just beat the life out of me. Now, I always played a year or two younger, so I was playing the older group, and this girl just beat the life out of me. And the teacher at halftime said to me, he said, "Byrne, if you don't hit that girl back, you're coming off." I said, "So I can't hit her back. I can't." He said, "She's beating the life out of you. You better hit her or you're off." So sure enough, I didn't hit her, and he took me off, and I didn't play for the team again. So that meant I was free to play soccer. So I played soccer then, and I moved from club to club, and I improved. I ended up playing for a team called Stella Maris, which are quite a national team. They're well known. We were brought up to the Milk Cup, and then I subsequently got trials in Wolverhampton Wanderers. Was doing really well there, and I then went to Tranmere, and then I actually got a move to another Dublin club called Belvedere, who are one of the more successful clubs as well. And funny enough, my granddad played for them, and so did my uncle. So we have a bit of a family lineage that played for Belvedere. So from Belvedere, one of the managers took me to Shamrock Rovers once I finished. So I played until I was 18. I moved to Shamrock Rovers, and I got a groin injury over there. I had osteitis pubis, and I didn't play for about 7 months. I got back. And then the doc said, you know, I'll never forget the doc. He was a great guy, the doc there. And he says to me, "Now, if you come back from this, you're going to play in the first team. So make sure you get back." So we got me back. They got me right. And I played in the first team, did really well. And then we got a guy called Noel Hunt, who you probably know played for Dundee. So he came in. And then it was literally me and him that were doing really well. And we actually played against Celtic in a friendly. And he played up front against Bobo Balde, and I played in midfield against Paul Lambert.
Oh, nice.
And we were only 19, 20, and the two of us did really well, you know. And that's Jimmy. The two Jimmys came to watch that game, and that's where Noel got his move. And then they realised that I was actually a left back playing in midfield. So I was playing left back, centre back. So they said, right, he's actually all right. We'll take him after a few months, you know. So that's I got me moved to Scotland then. So Ireland was great to play football. It was very, very tough, very, very physical. But lucky enough, the club I went to, Shamrock Rovers, we had some unbelievable players. We had a guy there that used to play at Liverpool, and he was with Jamie Redknapp, Steve McManaman, and him. His name was Mark Kenny, and Jan Malby taught him how to take free kicks, and he actually scored a free kick against Celtic. So we drew 1-1 with Celtic in that game, and he actually took me under his wing. And I think without him, I don't think I would have got into the first team and been so comfortable in a first team. So he was great, and we had a great dressing room, and I think that really helped me settle into professional football, because there was a lot of stress. I was working as an electrician at the time, so I was working full time, and then I had to go from work to training 3 nights a week, and then a match on a Friday night. So it was tough. It was very tough, but it was great times, you know, fantastic. And then obviously to get the move over to Scotland was a big step up, and it was fantastic.
Yeah, and then just before Callum asks one of his questions, I just want to just briefly touch on, you obviously had a decent time at Dunfermline, getting to a Scottish Cup final. What was that like, playing in a cup final?
Well, that was my first year in Scotland. The year before, I'd actually played in the Irish Cup final. So in my head, I was thinking, "Jeez, this is easy. Getting to finals is great," you know. So,
then you came to Aberdeen.
Yeah. But we ended up losing the final, to be fair, against Celtic. Now, we played a very good Celtic team. They were an unbelievable team. And only now when I look back, I realise how good they actually were. You know, I used to watch Alan Shearer and Chris Sutton, and they were dynamite together. And you think Chris Sutton actually played for Celtic, you know, and they had John Hartson from Arsenal, and they had Henrik Larsson, who then went on to Man United and Barcelona, and basically won the Champions League for Barcelona, you know, with 2 unbelievable assists. And you think, flipping hell, what a team they had. So to play that team in the cup final in Henrik Larsson's last game for Celtic was an amazing achievement. It was a great run, and we were very lucky. And I tell you, I was very lucky, because obviously I have some serious memories of the semi-final when it was actually my mistake for the goal of Cally Thistle. And Craig Brewster got me out of jail with a header from heaven. You know, he was unbelievable. How he scored his header, I don't know. So I'm very thankful to Craig Brewster and also Barry Nick. And the two of them came up to Aberdeen. But Barry Nick scored an unbelievable goal in Pittodrie in the replay against Cally Thistle. But that final was something else. I've never seen so many Dunfermline fans. I don't think anybody has. You know, they were coming out of the woodwork. It was brilliant. And people who were sitting on the fence all got tickets, and they all came. We actually, funny enough, about 30 Shamrock Rovers Shamrock Rovers fans got tickets for the game and came to Hampden and watched the match. So they actually came to the hotel before the game. Were sitting with me and Noel Hunt and Jimmy. This is the type of guy Jimmy is. Obviously, we all went to bed at about 9 o'clock, and Jimmy sat there drinking with him and having a chat with him and making them feel good, and brought them in and let them meet all the players. You know, and that's the type of guy he would be. And then when the match happened, so in the warm-up, they all came to the side of the pitch. They were all singing mine and Noel's name. It was unbelievable. And I think they actually sat in the Celtic end as well. So, so they were cheering for us while in the Celtic end.
Yeah.
But I don't think anybody was going to say anything to them, because there was a few serious guys there. But yeah, it was a great experience, and just a shame that with Aberdeen we missed out. There was one game I really wish we had won. I think we would have done well and got to a final. I think it was Dundee United away. And yeah,
Tynecastle.
Yeah.
That semi-final. Yeah.
Yeah. I really think we would have got through if we had beat them there, you know. But look, that's the way it is. That's the way football goes. You have to accept the losses, but you never forget the losses. It's the worst thing. They eat at you for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
You mentioned the Irish Cup final and then the Scottish Cup final. How did you find the transition from moving from the League of Ireland to Scotland? How did you find that?
I thought it was very tough. The pace was so quick, and Jimmy's training was crazy. They were doing passing drills that I had never seen and never been involved in. I couldn't believe the ball was moving that fast, and so many balls were moving at the same time, because we usually play with one ball and everybody, you know, has a part in the rotation. Jimmy would have 2 and 3 and 4 balls going at the one time. It is a million miles an hour, and it took me about 6 months to catch up to the lads. I realised, firstly, that obviously everybody was physically more strong and they were fitter. Body fats were right down. So there wasn't many, if there was any, there was probably 2 players that you'd say might be carrying a little bit. Whereas in Ireland, there's probably 7 or 8, you know. But yeah, you go to Scotland, people are a lot more muscular, and the runs were unbelievable. Oh my God. The runs we had to do were just phenomenal. So I think that was the main difference. And then obviously I remember one of my first games for Dunfermline, I played against Hearts, one of my first games on the first team. And I had to mark a guy, I think his name was McKenna, big tall fella. And I think he could play all around the park for Hearts. And he beat me in every header. And I was used to winning every header. And he beat me in nearly every header. And I ended up, he got through on goal. And somehow I had a great burst of pace back in them days, and I caught him, you know, and we averted. I think it was a 1-1 draw that game, but I did very well. So Jimmy was delighted, and you know I did well, and all the papers come in, they talk to you, and you feel great. But I did say to them, I'll never forget saying it was very, very quick, and the guys are huge. You know, they had Phil Stamp playing there that day as well, so they had a few, and Mark de Vries, they had a couple of huge guys. So the physicality was. It was serious. It was a big step up.
Yeah, it's good to kind of hear what the difference is between different leagues. And now you've obviously touched on Jimmy Calderwood and his training methods. He came to Aberdeen before you did. When did you first hear of Aberdeen's interest in you?
I remember my agent ringing me saying, "Listen, Jimmy might want you to go up." And that was sort of it, and it went a little bit quiet. And then I heard he was at a game. Dunfermline played away to Dundee United, and we went 1-0 down. I passed the ball back to Andre Skerler, and he miscontrolled it. Dundee United went through and scored. Andre blamed me, right? And I took that very personally. So I sort of went mad a little bit at him, and then I thought, you know what, we're going to get a goal back. And lucky enough, I assisted 2 goals, and then I think we beat them 2-1 or 3-1. And Jimmy was at the game. And after that, then I heard a couple of newspapers were saying Jimmy was watching me. And I didn't really know. I didn't really think he was. Funny enough, then I got a call. My agent said, "Listen, Jimmy's watched it and he wants you, and Dunfermline are willing to let you go." Now, I had a couple of problems at Dunfermline. It's mad, right? Now, when you come out of football, you can sort of talk about these things a bit easier. But when you're in it, you can't really say stuff. So, you know, when you watch Man United and you hear Paul Pogba and the agent and all these guys talking, and you think, I don't know what the real story is. Players can't really say much because you're still in the game and you don't want to bring any club or your agent or yourself into disrepute. So you have to be very careful what you say. So I haven't really talked about this, you know, but things that happen in clubs behind closed doors and fans don't know and the newspapers don't know, and all of a sudden a player leaves. A lot of things happen behind the scenes that people don't hear about and know about, and things like that were happening, and they happen at every club. But a couple of things happened at Dunfermline, and I was very happy to leave. So it just worked out well for everybody. Aberdeen paid Dunfermline what they paid for me. Dunfermline had got their use out of me. I was happy to go, and Aberdeen were happy to get me. So it just worked out well for everybody. And Dunfermline were starting to slide. They were starting to slide down. There was a couple of things happening behind the scenes. And I was very lucky and fortunate to get out at that period.
Yeah.
Okay. And obviously, I presume Jimmy Calder was also a massive influence on you wanting to come up to Aberdeen, having worked with him previously. Was there any other influences about Aberdeen that maybe that made you more likely to go there rather than anyone else, perhaps?
I heard it was a great night out. But to be honest, that the people did explain to me that it was a nicer city. It was quite big and it was good for young lads. So young, and I just recently become single as well, so I was very happy to move to a place like Aberdeen. And you know, so that was part of the lure. But no, look, I was just very happy to go and train and work with Jimmy because he was actually a father figure to me. And when I first moved to Dunfermline, I actually stayed in Jimmy's house when I first moved, and that's the type of guy he was. So you don't hear all these little things. So Jimmy, Sandy Clark, and Jimmy Nicol, they were fantastic to me, and I loved them. And I would, if they had went to Timbuktu, I would have went there with, you know, and I would have ran through a wall for them because I really, really loved them. And even the likes of, you know, Sandy Clark, right? His wife and Sandy offered to bring my kid down and up from Dunfermline, because Sandy's wife would come, and Sandy would also come from, there's a place near Livingston that they lived, and they would pass through Dunfermline. And she was like, listen, I'll go and get your kid to stop you driving all the way down, driving all the way up, you know, because I was under a lot of stress to go and get my kid at that period when I'd moved from Aberdeen. That's why my first couple of years at Aberdeen were very tough. I was under a lot of pressure off the field that only now I sort of can comprehend and understand what it was and what was happening. And I'm honest with myself now when I look back and I say, right, but that's actually what was happening. But Sandy would offer to drop me kid down and bring him back. And things like that you don't forget. So these guys were fantastic coaches and people.
Yeah, and I think it's quite clear the affection is, and I hope it's coming through to those of you that are tuning in, just the affection you sort of have for Jimmy Calderwood. You spoke about how quick the training was when you moved to Dunfermline. Was it the same at Aberdeen? Just how good a manager is Jimmy Calderwood? Because I feel like, for me, you know, I'm 28, and Jimmy Calderwood's era was the first kind of era of football at Aberdeen that I really enjoyed. Yes, the style some people would have said wasn't great, but we always ground out results under Jimmy. Just how good was he? Because I kind of feel he's a bit underrated.
Look, he's not going to be like Pep Guardiola and you know, probably Jurgen Klopp, and like, you have to remember, right? I think Jimmy was more about style and attitude, and more about getting good people into a club. If you weren't a good guy, if you hadn't got a good attitude, I don't think he wanted you, right?
Okay.
And he would weed people out very quickly that he felt hadn't got heart, didn't try, or, you know, just didn't have steel in them. Like, he actually got rid of David Grondin at Dunfermline, who was at Arsenal, and he took me in ahead of David because he felt that David wasn't suited to the Scottish game. He didn't have enough heart to fight. You know, like, I'm probably speaking out of turn on Jimmy's behalf about this, but that's the impression I got, because David was a good player, very technical, like, he was brilliant on the ball. He was very, very good. Now, but when it came to chasing someone back and a last-ditch tackle, and, you know, and probably nailing someone that had to be nailed to set a tone for a game, I don't think David is that player. You know, and I'll never forget, it was Barry, Nick, and Noel when I first went on trial to Dunfermline from Shamrock Rovers. Baz goes, I was in the car with Baz. He was driving me to training, and my first training session in Scotland. And Baz says to me, "Listen, Richie, just bleed and smash everyone, right?" Okay, he said, the gaffer loves that, right? Now, Jimmy was, you knew your place, right? So at the start of the season, we'd all have, he put a board up, like and he'd have all the positions there, and your name would be on 3 or 4 positions, in the positions that he would expect you to be able to play, right? So I had to play, I had to be able to. So when we would do stuff, I had to know what was happening in these other positions, right? And that was the same for every player. I had to know centre back, left wing back, left side of inside midfield, right? And a left of a 3. I think a left of a 3 up top, because he put me there once, right? So you had to know what everyone had to do, what was expected of you. So at the start of every game, you'd have your name in your little triangle, and he'd have all the 11 players, and he'd have little arrows to say, right, this is where you're going to move today, you're going to do this, you're going to do that, this is who you're up against. Set pieces were all done. So it was pretty standard. In training, obviously we were very, very fit, so there was a lot of fitness sessions, a lot of sprints, a good amount of ball work, but the games were just extremely fast. Now, when you talk about being a manager, like, there was certain things he'd focus on, but I don't think he went into too much depth. It was more making us as players want to win. And you can go into all the tactics you want, right? If you really want to win more than the other fella you're playing against, you're going to win. Right? And sometimes technical ability isn't gonna win the match for you. And it's got to be a drive and a desire. And if you look at every player in that team back then, I don't think there was anybody that hadn't got desire. And I think we matched every team for desire. Now, some games we might have just played bad, but I think the desire and the will to win, I think we had a great will to win in that team, a good team camaraderie, and we outworked a lot of teams to get the win. But Jimmy was mad, right? If we were playing Celtic and we went down like 1-0 or 2-0, he'd say to you, right, we're going 2 at the back, 4 in midfield and 4 in attack. What? And sometimes we pull out a result and come out with a draw, or a win, So,
Why not?
Like, he just had that thing about him that it was just all or nothing sometimes, and more times than not, we got the results. I'll never forget the time I got sent off against Motherwell at home. Yeah, that guy, David Clarkson, he pretended, he was pulling me back when I had the ball. I took the ball off him, I was dribbling away, and he pulled me back. So I sort of half swung, but I was like twisting to get away from him. And he jumped on the ground and pretended that I elbowed him in the face. And I never got to get him back for that. He's still in my black book. So if I ever play in a charity game and he's playing, that fella he's gonna get it. He's gonna get it. Right? See what I said about not forgetting? You never forget nothing. So I got sent off. Right? I couldn't believe it. And Jimmy said to me, "If you've done that, you're getting done 2 weeks' wages." Right? So I was thinking, I don't even think I hit him. So he went, everyone attack. Darren Mackey scored 2 goals. I think we beat them 3-2.
No, it was 2-2. I actually, it's funny you bring that up. I actually watched that game today. Like I said to you before, you can tell I had a busy day at work, but if my manager's listening to this, I was actually busy. And yeah, I think it was pretty impressive from David Clarkson headbutting your elbow the way he did, because there's a cracking photo of you staring down Craig Thompson at the decision of the red card. So yeah, you can tell you didn't take it well.
Oh, I've never been so angry, and I had to walk off. I'll never forget Richie Byrne coming over to me and said, "Leave him," because I was gonna take it to the streets, but I was ready to kill him. I said to him, "I'll give you something to go down about." So yeah, I was absolutely raging. But there you go. But Jimmy was great like that. He would turn the game around at half time. He'd say something to you, and he'd just fire you up. Or before the game, he'd come over and chat to you before the game and tell you what your job was. And then Jimmy Calderwood was really tough, and then Jimmy Nicol would make you feel a bit less stressed, because Jimmy was he's very intimidating. And then Jimmy Calderwood was Jimmy Nicol was a bit of laugh. And he'd calm you down and just say, "Come on, son, you're grand, do a bit of this." And Jimmy Nicol was great for me at the start of the game. He'd have 2 of the centre halves and the 2 fullbacks, and he'd clip little balls into you, and he'd put really awkward passes in, so you had to take a touch and clip it, and he'd tell you what to do. And then by the time the game came, you were ready. You were ready to deal with any type of ball that was played in. So yeah, they were great. They were very good.
Good. And one question: we know Jimmy loves a tan. Seemed to just tan as soon as he hit the sun. So did he spend more time tanning himself, or did he spend a lot more time on tactics?
I'll never forget the time. One time he came back from holiday, back from pre-season, and he was purple. I've never seen a white person so dark in my life. I don't know what colour his lips were. His lips were a mad colour that I've never seen before. But yeah, he wasn't even brown or orange. He was purple. So we all had a bit of a laugh when we seen him when he came in the room. We couldn't even look at each other, because you knew if I look at him, I'm gonna laugh. So I gotta just look at the floor. You can't make eye contact with any of the other lads, because you'll just start laughing. But yeah, he was great crack. But yeah, the tan was something else, But he did get a little bit of stick over it. But look, that was his thing. We had a house in Spain. He was always away, and he had a good life. He enjoyed himself.
Yeah, Jimmy sounds obviously brilliant, both on and off the pitch. It's an awful shame what's happened to him with the illness. I was just wondering if you maybe kept in touch with him when you both left Aberdeen.
Yeah, I talked to Jimmy Nicol a bit more, but I talked to Jimmy Calderwood a couple of times. I gave him a few texts, and I was actually due to meet him the day of the cup final of Aberdeen Celtic. I went up to it in Hampden there a couple of years ago, and I lost my phone the day before, so I didn't get a chance to actually meet him. I had a time and a place to meet him before the game, and I lost my phone the day before the bloody game, so I didn't get a chance to catch up with him, which was a nightmare. But yeah, we're actually, I'm on a WhatsApp with all the lads in Dunfermline, and we got his number, and we're going to text him now as well. So a couple of lads have texted him, so I'll text him again and just wish him well and stuff, you know. But it is. I seen Colin Nish put out a tweet there as well last week about it, saying that he met him and that Jimmy didn't really know him. So it's very, very sad. You know, it's very hard for everyone involved, and obviously I send on my best wishes to Jimmy and his family, and you know, because it's a tough one for everybody. It's a very tough thing for his loved ones, you know, to go through when he's like this.
Yeah, and that's lovely words there, Richie. And I think myself and Calum both echo that sentiment that you put forward there.
Yeah, absolutely, definitely.
So, Richie, back to yourself and your time at Aberdeen. You made your debut in Aberdeen's 200th Scottish Cup game against Inverness Caledonian Thistle in February of 2005. Do you remember much from your debut?
I don't remember that debut at all. At all. What score was it? Do you know?
Well, now you're putting my research on the spot because I don't think I wrote the score down. I just wrote it.
Did we win?
I'm going to say yes, but I'm sure plenty of people will correct me. I think we did win that game. But you made your league debut the following week against your former team in Dunfermline. What was it like making your league debut against your former side? Do you remember that one?
Yeah, I remember that one. I remember that too well. I remember that game too well because I actually got tonsillitis 2 days before. So I was dying sick. I was absolutely dying sick, and I didn't want to pull out a game. And I'll never forget, I was rooming with Chris Clark, and I was like, Clarky, I can't bleed and stand up. The night before the game, I was like, I actually can't stand up. I said, I need tablets. Will you go to the shop and get me tablets? I had to get bleeding. I had to get painkillers. I had to get anti-inflammatories. And I was absolutely dying. And I'll never forget the day of the game. I was thinking, I just got to get through this game. I can't pull out last minute. And so the warm-up was going on. I was thinking, oh my God, how am I going to play this? So I started to feel a little bit better as I got warmed up. And then we started the game, and I could feel from the start, this is going to be a tough game for me. This is going to be, I'm half a yard off of it. And I was playing, they got this new lad in, what was his name? And he did very well. They did a striker, and he actually played very, very well. But they actually did all right that game, Dunfermline. And I had to mark, I can't remember the lad I had to mark. I think I played left back. I might have played left back in the game, but I didn't have a great game. And I'll never forget, Simon Donnelly scored. I slipped, and Simon Donnelly scored. I've never been so disgusted at myself and my life, you know. And I was getting awful stick from the Dunfermline fans. It was a very, very tough game to play. I was getting awful stick from the far side when I went over. And it was just a horrible game. It was a horrible day. Look, I would have loved to win the game and I've got out of it luckily. But that was one of the games that you'd like to forget.
Yeah, we weren't actually going to bring up that you made a mistake in that game. We said we thought we'd better leave that, but since it's fine, nice of you to bring it up instead. But it might not have been the start you were after, but after that, you did go on a 6-game, well, not just you personally, but the team went on a 6-game unbeaten run, and you only conceded 2 goals in that time. One of the games, though, you didn't actually play in against Dundee, and that was one of the games we conceded. So 5 games, you then went on to play, only conceding 1. So it's a good way of putting a mistake behind you.
I was going to say, did he drop me for those games? But
no.
Oh, thank God for that. You know what, right? It's a strange thing because you make mistakes like that and you just never forget it. As I said earlier, you don't forget being beaten. You don't forget that feeling. That wasn't a great week for me, but I would have to say I thought I was a very, very good defender. And that was the one thing that Jimmy knew. He knew I was very good 1v1 and I was very good at covering other people. Now, technically, I think I should have done better. I think I actually got better technically when I left Aberdeen, funny enough. But I just think I should have probably worked. I should have understood what I needed to do earlier. And I think that's I don't know if that's a trait with a lot of people, but I think sometimes as young footballers, we sort of think we might get away with it and we don't really look at ourselves and say, right, what do I need to do to get to the next level? And we don't put ourselves under enough pressure and we don't criticize ourselves enough. Like, that game put me under a lot of pressure from the media, because after that game, because I was so angry, I was quite rude to the media after the game, and Jimmy slaughtered me to them. So they started straight away, what do you think of your gaffer saying this about you? And I was so angry in general. But then when I heard them saying that to me about Jimmy, talking about me, I was infuriated. So I was just pretty rude, you know. And ever since that, I think I got a hard time from most of the media. Even when I played certain games, they'd give me a 5, and I thought I was a 7 or an 8. You know, I think the fans thought I was a 2. But yeah, I got a bit of a hard time from them after that game. But and I put myself under pressure, I think, from that game. But after that, yeah, I think I picked up well. I think I did well for a while, and you know, as I talked about earlier, you know, off the field problems sort of followed me then up to Aberdeen. I think my form dropped, and yeah, it was the first year in Aberdeen was a very, very tough time.
Moving on to slightly more positive note, you'll enjoy this. Your first home goal came against Hearts on the last day of the season, which saw a very impassioned celebration. What was it like scoring for Aberdeen? There's 2 Aberdeen fans here. One, I played at Aberdeen, played at Tawdry once, lost 3-0 in the cup final for the school, terrible. And Glenn messed up in the halftime entertainment and missed a one-on-one. So just what was it like scoring for Aberdeen?
Yeah, since both of us failed miserably at the opportunity.
Do you know what? It's an unbelievable feeling when you score a goal. You just can't recreate it, and you can't explain to anybody what you feel. And obviously I had a lot of feelings had built up over that few months, that when I got that, and we really needed to win that game. We really needed to win that game. I think we needed to get 4. I think if we had got 4-0, I think we would have got into Europe. And I think we only won 3-0, I think. But Phil Maguire hit an absolute rocket off the post as well. And yeah, I think I got the first goal from a Sebi free kick, and
that's right.
It was a bullet header from about 15 yards and beat Craig Gordon. So I was delighted with that header. I thought it was a great header. Yeah, I got that goal, and it was just an unbelievable feeling, you know. And I went over to the side of the pitch that gave me the most stick, and that's the reason why they got that celebration. But it was great to score, and I sort of gave the fans a bit of a sort of insight that I do care. I do want to play well, and I was a good player, because I actually played very well that game as well. And I think it gave them an insight into, right, he's decent. He can actually play when he's right and when he's on it, you know.
Yeah, it's one of the things. I was speaking to a guy at work today, and he did say that he does remember you scoring. The other goal you scored that season was against Dundee United in a 4-1 defeat in the Scottish Cup. But he says the one thing he remembers from that game is your passion in scoring. We were 2-0 down when you did score, but he said the passion that you showed in your celebration made him believe that we would actually come back and get a result. Ultimately, though, maybe no one else shared that passion that you had.
Yeah, but you always think you're going to do something, you know, and I just with the team we had, and obviously with myself, I just never believe I'm beaten. I just don't believe anyone can beat me. You know, in my head, I just think whoever it is, they're not going to get by me. They're not going to do me. They might get by me, but I believe they're never going to. I'm too good. So in your head as a defender, you sort of have to think that, and you have to think the worst, and you have to believe that these fellas are not going to get by you. So as a defender, I sort of thought that. Obviously, we got battered 4-1. You know, we could see the 4 goals, so that's my fault as well. You know, so yeah, you just think. You just have to really never give up. And that's one thing I think I always had, no matter what the score was, I could never throw down tools that, well, we're 2-0 down now, let's just stop trying. You know, you just can't ever do that. I'm too stubborn anyway to ever allow that to happen. And you could never do that with Jimmy. Yeah. So that was another thing. If he ever caught you doing that, you're out and you'll never play again. He actually, I'll never forget this. We were in training one day, and I was only there a few months, and it was a training game at the end of the session. So we'd done all the hard work. It was a training game at the end of the session, and my team was getting battered about 4-5-0, right? So one of the boys passed me the ball, and one of the guys, what was his name? Miko was coming towards me, and I called it about 2 seconds early, and I shouted nuts. And I nutsed him and ran around him and took the ball and played the ball into someone. Jimmy went off his head. I was like, Gaffer, I went by him. He said, your team is losing 4-0 and you're nothing, people. He went ballistic. He said, you ever do that again, you won't play. Hell. So you couldn't even mess and do things like that, in training. So in a game, you could never stop. You could never give up,
Brilliant. We've got some kind of light-hearted questions before we get into the next couple of seasons. Just questions I suppose us as Aberdeen fans are interested to know when we speak to former players. So my question was, what was the atmosphere like, either home and away, when we were playing either side of the Old Firm?
Well, obviously away games were brilliant. You go to Celtic and Rangers and it's an amazing atmosphere. My first time ever going there was with Dunfermline, and it was great. You go there with Aberdeen and it's a bit different. You go there with Aberdeen, it's different to going there with Dunfermline. Dunfermline, like the fans are like 5-0 as we're going in the bus, right? So I'd be thinking, what is going on here? My first time ever seeing that, I was like, who do these fellas think they are? Telling us they're going to beat us 5-0, and then Larson scores 3, But like on the way in, I couldn't believe it. I'm like, who do these fellas think they are? They don't know who we are. So you go up there with Aberdeen, and it's a bit different. The fans treat you a bit differently because they recognise that Aberdeen is a big club, that we have, I'm not going to say we have better players, but there's probably more history behind Aberdeen, and Aberdeen have historically done better than Dunfermline. So, and Aberdeen have a history getting in between them too, and beating them. So there's more expectation from our fans going away, where I think in Dunfermline, the fans are sort of happy to go there, whereas Aberdeen, they're sort of thinking, well, we want to come away with a point. We're looking for the draw. Whereas Dunfermline, you're trying not to get battered 3, 4, 5-0. So, and I think Jimmy had that sort of attitude as well. When we went there with Aberdeen, he was thinking, like, we'll get results here, especially Rangers. Now, I didn't realise that Jimmy actually supported Rangers, and Jimmy Nicholl, they were sort of Rangers men.
Yeah.
But they hated Rangers, right? They hated losing to them, right? So you couldn't lose to them. So that was even more amplified, I think, with the fact that Aberdeen don't get on with Rangers. Obviously, I found out later why. I won't say too much about that. But, it was a shock to me when I actually seen why they don't like each other. But yeah, when you go there, there's an expectation to do something. So obviously, it was great going there. When they come here, I actually used to live near the beach, so a lot of the Rangers fans would park there. Their buses were down there, and they'd walk through my area to get to the ground. So I realised, again, they'd wreck the whole area, and they wouldn't be the nicest people to walk, but you wouldn't want to be walking by them in an Aberdeen top, let's just say. So yeah, it was a tasty game. It was a great game, and actually, my mother came to a Rangers game. We were playing Rangers at home, and she came to a game and she couldn't believe it. She was there with my sister. And they watched the bloody game, so she was like, I can't believe how mad that was.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was fun times. It was great. It was great to play in. I'd never give it up for anything. It was the best time in my life. It was amazing.
You mentioned before, you went to celebrate on the side that fans were maybe giving you the most stick. How did you find overall your relationship with the Aberdeen fans was?
I think it was up and down, and I think that when you listen to some of the stories from past players, and even Gordon Strachan got a load of stick for his first few years, and that's the way the Aberdeen fans are. They give players a lot of stick, and I've said this since, and I haven't said it out in public, I don't think at all, but if you want Real Madrid standard, you have to go and watch Real Madrid, right? You have to recognise that football is a very hard thing to do, and it's also very hard to do when someone else is actually really good too, and they're trying to stop you doing what you want to do, and you're trying to stop them, and players at a higher level, they can actually anticipate, and that's what makes them better. They anticipate what you're actually going to do. So you nearly have to double bluff them. So it's actually, and you have to do that really quickly, and then be fit enough to run around and take a knock. And so it's quite, it's harder than it looks. And I'm not trying to be condescending to fans, but it is a really tough thing to do. And I think sometimes the fans can be a little bit unfair to certain players, because it's a tough job. It's pressurized, and these are young guys as well. And even look, I look at football games and I'd be shouting at people and screaming, you know, and I'm hammering people, and then I go, actually, what am I doing? You know, I sometimes remember how hard it actually is when you're down on pitch level and when you're under pressure. You know, so my relationship with the fans, it was like, when I played well, it was grand. When I didn't play well, I got hammered, and that's just the way Aberdeen fans are, and most fans are like that. You know, most fans do it. I do it. You know, but I sort of have to catch myself. But I will say, Aberdeen fans expected us to be winning at halftime, and sometimes we'd go in at halftime, they'd be booing us if we're not winning. You know. Or if we're losing, then we're definitely getting booed, you know. But if we're drawing, sometimes we got booed. So, you know, look, there's a high expectation level, and there's nothing wrong with that. But that's down then to the manager, the people that own the club, the manager, then to pick the players that he thinks can raise to that expectation level and perform to the capabilities of the club. You know, if the club have money, they should spend money on the right players in the right positions, and push the old firm, which, to be fair, I think they've been doing the last few years. I think they've done very well, you know, with the money that's invested, you know. So I have to say, I think Derek has done well. And I like the style of football that Derek plays. I was playing under him down at St. Johnson for a little bit when I went there on loan. And I like his understanding in the game and how he puts across what he wants. And he goes through, he does video analysis, he does a lot of stuff. He's quite new age. So he actually is really good, you know. So I have to say, I like Derek. I like him a lot as a manager.
That'll be interesting for some of the fans to hear, I'm sure. Moving on. Who's the best player you played with at Aberdeen was?
That's a horrible question to ask me. That is a horrible, horrible question. The best player with... You're killing me here. Can I name a few?
You can name a few.
Yeah, feel free,
Let me name a few, right? So, that's even hard. Best, I would say, in the trenches, we have a tough game. David, big striker by a mile. Russell Anderson.
Yeah.
Right? Oh, my God. Right? Russell, bang, bang, right? I loved Russell as a defender, but also Marcus Heikkinen.
Yes,
the
great
most
show.
A silent assassin of a guy, not loud, as economical. I've never seen anybody so economical. The only player I'd say is as economical as him was probably Kevin McNaughton. Does exactly what you have to do when you have to do it. And that's why I think Kev went and played at the level he played and did so well, because everything that he had to do, he was just efficient, right? And Marcus was, for me, the best at that. It was because he had pace, he had a ton of pace, he could dribble, he could win tackles, you know, he was solid. Marcus was amazing. Striker.
You're not really spoiled for choice at your time in Aberdeen with like good strikers.
Brewster, Crawford. I'm going to say Lee Miller for me. Lee Miller was just a dream to play with. He would win a header against all the odds. His timing was a joke. His timing, I've never seen anyone time jumps like this in my life. I remember watching him against Rangers. I did a radio. I was working for the Aberdeen radio, I think North Sound, and he just won every header. He won every header. I said it to I think it was Dave McDermott. I said, Dave, this fella, you wouldn't believe this fella in training. You just can't beat him in the air. His timing is a joke. And so Lee Miller, and then Jamie Smith. And that Copenhagen game, like Jamie Smith, you play any pass into him. And I actually did a podcast with North Sound as well, and I talked about Jamie. Again, underrated for me. What a player. So skillful, but what a hard worker. Amazing, amazing player. But look, there's loads. It was a great squad. Barry Nick, like Chris Clark's a great player.
Even had Scott Severin as well.
Scott Severin, Rick Foster, so versatile. You know,
that'll be a controversial opinion again.
Well, listen, I know he went to Rangers or whatever. Listen, I don't think I'd ever forget that either. I played Call of Duty with him. Did you think I ever let him forget that? Right. So yeah, Rick doesn't get away with Scott Mortar. He doesn't get away with anything. But yeah, we had an unbelievable. I have to say, the players I played with there were phenomenal, and even Noel Whelan. You know, I used to watch him on telly when I was in Ireland, when he was at Coventry, and getting to play with him, his technique, his touch, the way he passed the ball. do you know what? It was a dream. And I'll tell you who another one, a sneaky one that you might forget about. Technically, Derek Adams.
Okay, yeah.
Technically, you give the ball into Derek Adams' feet, he never lost it. He just couldn't run. You know, that was the only thing with Derek. He just couldn't run. He was towing a bleeding caravan, but get the ball into his feet. Derek Adams is unbelievable. You know, so yeah, look, it was a very, very good side. You know, some great players in there. Who was the best? I don't know. I'm gonna give me a number one. I'm gonna say Marcus.
Okay.
Nice.
I'm gonna say Marcus.
It's good to hear you go through the team defense to attack as well. You obviously, you know, there was a lot of good players you played with in your time. What was the dressing room like?
It was very good. You know, the dressing room was great up there. The lads were very funny. Obviously, everyone knows Darren Mackey was mad. Darren, Kevin McNaughton. But I had a great time in that dressing room. The lads were phenomenal. Mick Hart, very funny, very dry, hilarious guy.
Were you in the team with the Young brothers?
No, they actually came to Dunfermline when I got to Dunfermline, and then Derek came back to Aberdeen. So Derek and Darren are very funny. So Derek was actually texting him the other day. But yeah, so do you know who I've forgotten the best players I ever played with? Who I forgot? I got to throw it. No, I think this fella is actually the best player.
Who is it?
Jackie McNamara.
Oh,
wow.
wow.
Jackie McNamara. I'm so sorry. I know he's a Celtic player.
People are going to have nightmares about the last time he played for Aberdeen. I don't think they're going to forget that.
Last time what? Jackie played?
The Queen of the South game, that didn't go down well.
Oh, bad memories. You brought back a lot of bad memories.
I don't remember what happened. Was I still there?
No, I don't think you were there.
Yeah, I was gone.
Yeah, it was. We lost the Scottish Cup semi-final to Queen of the South 4-3. Right. Do you remember John Stewart was
at this stage? I was still very bitter at this stage.
Yeah, well, John Stewart was playing for Queen of the South, and I think Steve Tosh was as well. Obviously, it wasn't the result we were expecting, and instead of coming over to the fans to apologise, Jackie McNamara walked straight down the tunnel at full time. So, yeah, he's not really held in quite high regard amongst the Aberdeen support after that.
I would say Jackie takes defeat very personally, and he's probably so disgusted. And that's why. That's nothing to do with the fans. That's him. You know, great guy. I was only texting him there the other day as well. Great guy, but could not stand losing. He hammered me over in Spain. Remember, we played in Spain, and he was unbelievable in that game against Atletico Madrid. But he was like, "Come on, Rich," and he was at me the whole game. You know, but what a player! Play centre midfield, right back, left back, centre back. You can play him anywhere. Brilliant. I'm still going to stay with Marcus. I'll stay with Marcus, right? Jackie, close second, right?
Okay.
So go on. Sorry, moving back to where we were. Sorry.
Yeah, well, I was going to touch on the 05-06 season briefly before we just move on, because I don't want to take up too much of your time. You've also been generous to spend time with us, speaking through memories, and there's lots of great stories we've enjoyed so far. Just in general, I'd be eager to see how the 05-06 season went for you. You spoke about the games against Rangers and how much Calderwood hated them during his time at Aberdeen. We went undefeated against Rangers that season, I noticed. You've already stole my opportunity to speak about your sending off against Motherwell, but it's good to see you're still not over it, all these 15 years on. But you had quite a good pre-season that year. The first game you played, you came on 2 minutes against Huntly and scored. And then you also scored a volley, which you talked about before we started recording, that you were very good at scoring volleys. I was against Baberich. I think that was on the German-Dutch pre-season tour.
Okay, yeah. Over in Holland.
Yeah. Jimmy liked a trip to Holland.
Yeah, that was the best goal I've ever scored in my life. Honestly, even in the little games, the training, that was the best goal I've ever scored. So Barry Nicholson took a free kick and he zinged it. And it sort of come over my shoulder. Now, I'm not joking. It was Marco van Basten-esque. It come over my right shoulder. And I remember Russell was right in front of me and it sort of went over his head. And I just thought, you know what? I'm not even going to bother trying taking this down. I'm going to just belt it. and I volleyed this thing across the keeper into the far side. It was an unbelievable strike. So that was the best goal I've ever scored in my life. And I think someone caught it on their phone. I think it's on YouTube or something somewhere. Someone caught it on their phone. But I was disgusted that there was no proper camera there to catch that, because that would have went up on my wall, that goal. But yeah, so I did all right in that pre-season. That pre-season was a very good pre-season. I sort of got my head together.
Mm-hmm.
I did a lot of I did all the fitness runs. I was flying fitness wise. I was doing great. And yeah, it was a great start. And Jimmy was very happy with me in the pre-season. He had a couple of chats. And he said, "Listen, you're doing very well. You're on it now. You're back to normal. You're doing very well. Just keep it going." And I think that was the season I did my hamstring. Is it? Or no, I did my shoulder. I did my shoulder that year.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So do you know what happened? How I did this? So and I had been playing so well. I've been playing brilliant. I'll never forget it. I was really progressing. There was talk of me going to the Irish setup as well, because I was really starting to come on and because I was on standby for Ireland at Dunfermline, and I picked back up performance again. I was doing very well. I was getting fit, and we were doing set pieces on a Friday, and Nick whipped the ball in. So that's what his thing was, to whip the ball into the front post. So I was to make a run sort of across the keeper, and I was running across and I jumped. And Ryan Essen came out to try and punch it, and I nailed him with my elbow right in the chest, right? I thought I killed him, right? He hit the ground, he's trying to breathe, and I was like, oh my God. I'm like, what am I after doing here? This is bleeding training, right? And everyone's like, Richie, you're a bit of an asshole, I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry, right? So anyway, he got up, and I sort of had to go easy. But the same thing happened in the game. So Barry was whipping the ball in, and I ran for it and I jumped. And as I jumped, I thought, you know what, I'm not going to make that. So let me pull out of it so I don't give a free kick away. Little did I know their keeper was coming out to do me. So as I'm coming down with my elbow relaxed, he came up and hit me elbow, and I popped my shoulder. Now, when I landed, I did a bit of a somersault, and I landed, and I thought, I'm injured, but I think it's my leg. So I got up and I sort of hobbled off. And I thought, no, my legs are all right. So I ran back on, and I kept playing. So I tried to jump for another header, and my arm wouldn't move. So I signalled to the benchers, like, lads, I think I need to come off. So I went off, and when I went into the dressing room, I took my shirt off, and the bone was up here. I started crying, right? I couldn't believe that's what I was looking at with my shoulder. So yeah, I had to get an operation, and that was sorted that. And then the operation got infected. And that was another big hullabaloo. It got infected. I had to go in for another operation, and that was a good. I think that was about a 6 month, 7 month ordeal with this shoulder. It eventually got fixed, and then I got back. And I got back. I was running. I was starting to get back to normal. I was feeling great, and I played in the last couple of games of the season. I think I played against Celtic.
Yeah, you did. That was the only time we actually got a point against Celtic that season. 2-2 draw. Yeah,
and that was one of my best games for Aberdeen. I thought I was brilliant that day against Celtic. I did really, really well. I was so sharp. I was so fit. I felt strong. Again, I thought I think it was Aidan McGeady, was it? I was playing against.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought he is never getting by me, and he tried to do me a couple of times. I just took the ball off him, and I thought, this fella is not getting by me today. I think he might have done me twice in the game, which he would usually do people about 20 times. He'd go around you 3 times.
Yeah.
And I just thought, I'm just going to let him have it. And if he knocks it, I'll just do him for pace and I'll take it off him. And I thought, even on the ball, I thought I played very well that game. And then, again, the pre-season, I think we went to South Africa that pre-season.
That was the next season, 2006-07, the South Africa pre-season, yeah.
Yeah, so we went to South Africa
What was that like?
In that pre-season, that was great. What a trip. And I actually had a pop at, do you know, what's that guy's name? It was a reporter, Charlie. Charlie, is he still reporting for that?
Is that the guy that works for the Evening Express?
Charlie Allen, is it?
Yeah.
Charlie Allen, yeah.
So he had been slaughtering me for the whole 2 years, right? And unfairly in some games, I thought. And some games, do you know what he did as well? I played very well in one game. He didn't even give me a mark. He omitted my name from the team, right? Yeah. And I was about an 8 or a 9 in this game. I thought, this fella is actually trying to do me. So he just can't take himself to say Richie did well. So I caught him on that pre-season. We were having a few drinks, and he comes into the pub, Now I'm sitting with Jimmy, Nick, Sandy Clark, and he comes into the pub and sits down, starts talking to them. That was it. Because I'd never really talked to him, so I hammered him. I lambasted him in front of everyone, and I told him, "Listen, you better start being more fair with your criticisms of me, right?" And sure enough, he wrote a lovely big article that was really nice about me, and the sort of the ratings improved for a bit, but yeah, that pre-season we went back with him. We did very well, and I came back from that pre-season, and the first game we played Inverness, I think it was, and I think it was Inverness, and I've been struggling with my hip flexor a little bit from the runs we were doing in Africa, and I didn't play that well. And another thing about Jimmy, he didn't like negative play. So because I didn't want to clip the ball long because my hip was at me, I kept playing it back to Russell. So Jimmy went mental at me after the game. Right? He went mental. I think we lost 1-0 or something. I can't remember.
No, I've got to thank the AFC Heritage site for getting me a lot of these stats, and I'm just looking at it just now. We drew that game 1-1, and you did play the full 90 minutes in that game. It was a last minute equalizer that they got in that game.
Yeah. So Jimmy, even though we drew, Jimmy absolutely hammered me, right? He hammered me. He said, you kept going back to Russell playing the safe game. So you're going to train on Tuesday, or you're going to play the reserve game against Inverness, up in Inverness on the Tuesday. Now, bear in mind, I was already struggling, and I was like, oh, flipping hell, okay. So I went and played that game, and that's where I tore my hamstring. I tore my hamstring off that game, and that was it. That was pretty much it. So
yeah, because you played in there was a pre-season game after the Inverness game against Everton, which I'll always which I remember well. It was the first time seeing the like a Premiership team. You played there as well. But you know, you speak about the hamstring tear that you got. I think it's safe to say that was, you know, you missed a large part of the season through that. You know, we spoke before again recording. There was articles about how you struggled to come back from that injury. I believe you hired your own personal trainer to help you in that recovery. And obviously the season went well on the pitch for Aberdeen. Ultimately, we qualified for Europe, but you were quoted as saying that you kind of now, apologies if this is the wrong quote. I'm reading off the Daily Record, and we all know what their journalism's like. You said you were a bit embarrassed to be on the pitch celebrating with the lads for qualifying for Europe because you felt you hadn't played your part in the season in getting us there.
Yeah, I don't think they're far off with that quote. I did. I felt terribly embarrassed. I just felt I didn't offer anything to the team. And I don't like taking credit for other people, you know. I want to do well myself, but that was a horrible year, and that sort of finished me off. That injury, that was the start of me having to retire. You know, so that's it. I probably won't go on to it with this in this interview. I won't go into it into too depth unless you ask me about it specifically, and I'll go into it. But yeah, that was a horrible year, and for a young guy to get an injury like that, because I didn't actually find out what it was until I actually moved to London, you know, 10 years later. You know, I seen a physio down here that looks after all the top guys, and he told me actually what it was. So I had such a long time of not knowing what the problem was and not understanding, and you know, it was a very, very, very tough time mentally, emotionally, and physically for me. And to just not play a part in the team, I just felt horrible. Like Ricky Foster went in and played left back. You know, and I felt Ricky took my place. I'm sitting there looking at him playing so well because he's two-footed. I thought he's done unbelievable. He might have got Player of the Year that year. I can't remember, but he was unbelievable. You know, and it just goes to show you how quickly you're forgotten and how easily other people can raise their game to fill in. Yeah. So, of all the information and all the advice I give to young players that I come across to now, and even anyone playing football now listening in, don't get injured. And that is it in a nutshell. Just do not get injured. If you're not injured, you'll always progress and you have a chance. And you can get fitter and you can technically improve. But as soon as you get injured, that's gone. None of that is going to happen. So, yeah, just don't get injured, you know. So, yeah, if you want me to elaborate, I can elaborate. If you don't, we move on. We talk about other stuff. We can do that.
And Callum, you've got a question that links into the injury. I think, you know, Richie, we won't pry too deep into it, because as it's been nice of you to at least get into it in some light for us, because it probably was quite a difficult time for you. And we do have other things we want to pick your brains on as well.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, before we move on from that, talking a lot of injuries, young player at Aberdeen just now, Scott Wright, who's been playing pretty well this season when he's been in the team, but he has struggled a lot with injuries. And just thinking, I think there must be much better support nowadays for players who struggle with that sort of thing, rather than sort of in your time. Not to make you sound old or anything.
My knees will tell you how old I am. My knees are talking to me at this point when I stand up, the noise of them. But do you know what? I don't think there's enough support for players, and that's just standard. We all know it at every level. At Premier League, even at Premier League, I know Premier League players now down here that do not get the emotional support that they should get, right? So it's not there, and there's not enough emphasis put on it. There's not enough effort and money put into it. For like the guy like Scott Wright, a young guy in the Aberdeen squad. Aberdeen are not made of money. They don't have, as far as I know, they don't have a counsellor that comes in and talks players through how they feel. They don't have anybody to teach these players what to do off the pitch, whether to go out drinking, like the lads that went out drinking in the COVID-19 lockdown. Like, these are all things that these are young guys that have a bit more money and more free time than your average young guy, right? But you're also in the public eye. So it's a very, very tough thing. And as a young guy that then becomes injured, when you're injured and when you retire, right, you're not the guy you think you are anymore, right? So when you retire, it's like a bereavement, because it's the death of me as a footballer. So when I retired, Richie Byrne, the footballer, is gone. He's dead, right? And it's a very hard thing to come to terms with and to accept. And when you're injured, it's a similar thing, because you can't be the person that you are, right? You can't just go out and zing a football or sprint and show other people how good you are and do what you love doing. So it's a very, very tough time. So when you are injured, and people think that it's just easy to come back from an injury, you've got to do the work. You've got to do the work to get you over the pain. So you got to get the pain to decrease or go away. You got to then train to where it's uncomfortable. You can feel the pain a little bit, and then you've got to come through that, and then you've actually got to get to performance level, right, and be confident to perform, and then actually technically do what you are able to do and you should be doing. So it's a long process, and if you don't do it right, if the person that's looking after you doesn't help you do it right, it can get very complicated. And then so for instance, if you had, say, a muscle injury and you don't rehab it right, so you have the muscle itself, you have the injury which collagen forms, so scar tissue forms. That connection between the scar tissue and the muscle, if that doesn't heal well and it's not aligned well so that the muscle can actually stretch and move, that's going to keep reoccurring. And once that happens, then as a player, your head goes, because your confidence in your body goes. Your teammates are not confident in you, and your manager is not confident in you. And once the manager loses confidence in your physical ability and your fitness, you're gone, you're done. And once your contract goes and it expires, you're pretty much left, and you're left to your own device. And that's the worst thing about football. They only have to pay it till July, and then you're done. Good luck. So it's a very, very stressful time, and it's a stressful thing to get in. So the likes of a fella like Scott Wright, he's picking up little injuries. You just gotta. I would give anyone advice that gets an injury, even a member of the public, go to the best of the best that you can get to. That whether you have to pay, whatever it is you have to pay, find out who it is through your own research and other people's research, and get the best treatment possible. Because I know that if you don't deal with it at the time, you're gonna struggle, and one thing can lead to another. So you can have a chain of effect from that one injury. So it's crucial that this fella gets himself sorted. But mentally and emotionally, he's got to talk to somebody as well, because it's very, very tough when you keep getting re-injured.
Yeah, well, hopefully he does have a good support network, and he can come back fighting fit. You managed to come back fit and play for Aberdeen again in 2008. We were in Europe, and you got to experience some European nights at Pataudry. But you touched on it earlier, you played against Atletico Madrid in Madrid. Unfortunately, I couldn't get to that game because I had an exam, so my dad didn't let me go.
Passed.
I did. thankfully.
But
But it did mean I could go to Munich, thankfully.
Okay.
But a 4-0 win against Copenhagen saw us get through, which again you played in. The atmosphere I'll always remember was noisy, to say the least, with the vuvuzelas. But what was it like those European nights at Tawdry for you as a player and playing in that Copenhagen game? I think it'd be good for us to hear, a player's experience of that game.
Do you know what? From the start, when we actually got to the club, there was people in the stand with the Venezuela, going. And we got in and we're like, this is unbelievable. They're starting already. We're not even changed. So, and then when we went away to Spain as well, just knowing and seeing all the fans at the stadium on the way in, they were there early. There was loads of people outside. European nights, they're hard to explain because it just is a different atmosphere and it is amazing no matter who you're playing for. But with Aberdeen, it was so good because the support was so strong. So it's obviously the biggest supported team that I've played for. So I've never seen so many supporters supporting my team that I'm playing for as when I played for Aberdeen. So it was amazing for me. The night in Madrid was phenomenal. It was outrageous to play a team like Atletico Madrid and who they had. That was just, you just can't comprehend what it's like playing against them. And they're so good on the ball. So you think, with normal players, you think, right, he's going to take a touch and then he's going to probably go that way and then I'm going to have a chance to have a nibble. These fellas were just playing one touch. And you'd go to run, you take 2 steps towards them and the ball's gone. You have to go the other way. And then you have to go the other way. It's unbelievable. And Diego Forlan he'd point to his foot to the defender. He'd say, right, play that ball from 40 yards away to me right foot. And your man would do it. And Forlan would just play it one touch around the corner. It was unbelievable. It was
and
unbelievable.
There's a young Sergio Aguero played that night as well.
Aguero. Honestly, you look at them and it is like watching FIFA because they just don't lose the ball and they don't make mistakes. It's mad. It's mad how good they are. Okay, I'll never forget it. I haven't told this story I don't think I've told this story in like to any media or anything. So the whole week running up to the game, right? Jimmy and Sandy. So the 2 Jimmys and Sandy are going through what we're going to do. This is how we're defending. This is how they play. This is what they do. They try to play a little triangle and play the ball in between the full back and the centre back. He goes to me, Richie, you're playing left back. Do not let that ball go in between you and the centre back. Right? Don't do it. Right? The whole week, right? The whole week he's saying it, right? So we go to the game. We're at the game. We're getting changed. I haven't even got all my boots on. And he goes to me, don't let that ball go between you and that centre half. I'll go, yes, gaffer. We're running out into the pitch. Richie, in between centre half. I say, gaffer, you don't need to keep bleeding telling me. So the game starts, right? We're only about 2 or 3 minutes in. And Maxi Rodriguez has the ball on the far side. He's playing left wing. Has the ball on the far side. And he turns back out and he's looking like he's going to play it back to his left back. I look outside me and Luis Garcia is out on the line. And I check the ball. I check Luis Garcia. I check the ball. I check Luis Garcia. I'm safe. It's grand, right? Maxi Rodriguez just goes and batters the ball. He zings it about 80 yards inside my shoulder, right? I'm thinking to myself, what is this fella doing? Your man's out on the wing. I turn. He's gone. I look. He's on my bleeding shoulder. He takes the ball on his chest and he's one-on-one with the keeper. I'm like, oh my God. And he hits it with his left foot, thankfully. And it just went by the post. I could feel Jimmy Calderwood looking at me, right? All the noise of the fans, his eyes were burning a hole, and I thought, right, I'm going to have to look. I look, he's purple, the tie is there, and he's like a lunatic, right? I'm like, oh my God, half-time is going to be horrific. So I played well. I played a very good game that game. Half-time. Michael Hart, now bear in mind, Michael Hart gave away a free penalty against Sergio Aguero. What does Jimmy spend the whole half doing, the whole half-time? Shouting at me. Right, nailing me for not doing what he told me to do. So he hammered me, and I think I was an easy one to hammer because I could sort of take it, And then the rest of the lads would hear that and go, "Jeez, we better play," So we did very well, and we could have got a couple of goals that game. I'm sure, as you remember, with a couple of chances. So, but yeah, it was unbelievable. It was brilliant. It was a brilliant atmosphere, and then the Copenhagen game was just. Do you know what? You look at Steven Gerrard and the goals that he scored and getting Liverpool. I feel that game that we played was as good as that. You know, like Jamie Smith's goal from 100 yards. You know, it was just to see. And you know when Rio Ferdinand talks about Ronaldo hitting the shot and going, pass, goal. It was like that. You're thinking, God, he's not going to. And then bang, you know, and it goes in. It was unbelievable. It was unbelievable. And then the other couple of his second goal as well. Oh my God, left foot, right foot, then left foot. The fella is just he's unbelievable. And it was a fantastic game, great atmosphere, and the fans were amazing as well. Yeah, it was great.
I think folk forget it was 0-0 at half time in that game as well.
Yeah. And I'm telling you, they could have had a couple of goals early.
Yeah, they
were
could.
causing us problems with a long throw. They had a long throw artist, and he was nailing. I think he was zinging the balls in, and we were finding it hard to deal with that. And there were a couple of big lads, who are quite. And they also had Alback, and he was unbelievable there. He was only about 5'11", but he was so strong. I tried to grab a hold of him, and it was like touching stone. I swear to God, I've never touched anybody like that. I was like, this fella is solid. You know, so like they had and they had Jack McGraw there as well. They did a good side.
Then Breda Hangeland as well went on to play in the Europa League final for Fulham as well. He was playing at the back.
No way. That's who I think was winning the headers, and them they had Hangeland.
Yeah, I
didn't even realise they had him.
I swear, he's definitely. I remember looking on the programme, and he's definitely there. Whether he played, I think he probably did. I think he did. I'm convinced.
Oh my God!
Yeah,
because they did have
team.
a huge centre half. They had a huge centre half that was coming up for the headers, for them throws. Flipping out. But yeah, like to get away with the first half like we did, and we actually played well on the ball. And then the second half, it was just unbelievable. It was a whirlwind. You actually look back and you think, I can't even believe that's what happened. You know. And then after the game, the dressing room was just mad. It was mad. It was unbelievable.
Yeah, it must have been some party. You've mentioned a few of them about Atletico Madrid there. Garcia, Maxi Rodriguez, Forlan, Aguero. First of all, how do they compare with guys like you maybe played against for Celtic and Rangers, like guys like Larson, Sutton, Hartson as well? How do they compare between those? And after, you're not going to like this. Out of all of them, the one best player you played against... I'm killing your nose. I'm sorry. Maybe we'll give you a top three for that. Maybe we'll give you a top three for that.
So the way they played, I think Celtic had obviously a lot more British-based players. So they would take 2 and 3 touch, but they still moved the ball very fast. At that time, for me, when I first came to Scotland, at Dunfermline, I think. Probably, Celtic. I think Celtic were pipping Rangers. I thought Celtic were a bit better. And then the next season, I thought Celtic were definitely better than Rangers. So Celtic were the team, the best team in Scotland, in my opinion. I think they just had so many ways of haunting you. They had a couple of very good wingers, and their strikers were huge. And obviously they had Larson. Their midfield, Neil Lennon, went a lot side to side, but he played the ball in the feet. I think they played in front of you more, but they were just big, and they just battered you. You know, and then they'd whip crosses in. You had to deal with big fellas winning crosses. And they'd pepper you with long balls up to Chris Sutton or John Hartson, and you couldn't really beat them, and you couldn't get around them to win the ball. So as a defender, for me, that was hard to play against, because it was more of a fight. But when you play against Atletico Madrid, they're all small, and they don't take any more than 2 touch. So you literally cannot get close to them. Now, another thing with Atletico Madrid, they let you have the ball as well. They'll say, well, you have the ball, what are you going to do? And they sort of say to you, well, come on, do something. You know, we'll hang off and we'll hang around, but if we get the ball off you, you're not going to get it back for 10 minutes, because it's bam, 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 bam. It's just popping you to death. And they suck you out of position, and it's like they try and lull you into a certain sort of false sense of security, where they sort of say to you, come on out and get the ball, you know, and then you step out, and then all of a sudden it's a triangle, and then they're in. Do you know what I mean? Whereas Celtic are just more direct and just bombard you. It's just a bombardment after bombardment, getting the ball wide, fast fellas, getting down the line, whipping balls in. If you can cope with that and you deal with it, you can sort of, you know, if you have the defenders that can deal with that, you might get a goal the other end, you know. So that would, for me, would be the difference. Just the speed of pass and the physicality of the players, and just the technical ability of Atletico Madrid is just. I've never played against anybody else like that. It was a joke. It was actually embarrassing how good they were.
And now, who's the best player that you've played against? I'm sorry to put you on the spot like that.
Yeah,
It's probably hard to narrow it down.
No, like it's got to be Henrik Larsson, because I actually had to mark him one time. So it was me against him one game, and that was the game we won, by the way, right? And he didn't score, right? So that's why I think I can defend anybody. If I defend Henrik Larsson, I think I can defend anybody, right? So even now, I look at some of the games, I look and I go, I'd bleed and defend him now. So that's where me shouting at the telly comes from, you know. But Henrik Larsson was just phenomenal. But you do gotta say, like Aguero and Diego Forlan are also up there. But there was also some other unbelievable, like Stan Petrov. Like he actually followed me on Instagram. I couldn't believe it. And I text him every now and again, how are you, Stan? You all right? But he was phenomenal on the ball. And fit as a fiddle as well. He'd come off the pitch, he'd be bleeding, sweating. But so I think for me, Larsson and Petrov were the best players in the Celtic team. And obviously, John, who as well I had to mark, who was a very good player, Nakamura. What a player!
And he could pick a set piece.
But he didn't even try to run. It just like he floated. You know, it didn't even look like he was putting effort. But he was very good. But yeah, Larsson, Petrov for Celtic. Larsson pips him, obviously. And then between Larsson and Aguero, who would you say?
I don't know.
Actually, who would you say, Larsson or Aguero?
That's a good point. I think I would probably have to say Aguero, because I'm a little bit younger. So from what I've seen, it'd be Aguero. Glenn, you've maybe got a bit more experience between the two.
Yeah, well, I mean, Larsson caused endless pain. You know, watching him against Aberdeen. Aguero's not caused me any personal pain. But I think Aguero's probably, for me as well, I'd probably take Aguero over Larsson as probably being the best player I've certainly seen.
I don't know. But Aguero was amazing. Just Larsson, he could just do everything. He could do everything. He could head the ball. He could do it with right foot, left foot. If you remember his goal against in the UEFA Cup final, the header from like 20 yards.
Yeah.
He just had everything. He had it all. But yeah, Aguero was unbelievable. So I don't know. It's between them two. I'd say it's between them two. I'm going to say Larsson.
We'll give you that's, you know, it's hard to pick between them two anyway, so I think that's fair enough. We won't make you choose one or the other. But Richie, again, thanks very much for, you know, taking the time to speak to myself and Callum. And, you know, we're kind of coming to the end of the podcast, and I hope those of you that have tuned in have enjoyed all these stories that Richie's recollected for you. You know, me and Callum have certainly enjoyed listening to them. You know, when you left Aberdeen, Richie, you know, I think it was in April you were told your contract wasn't going to be extended. Was that quite hard to hear, or was there a certain part of you that was maybe expecting it, given the injury problems?
Yeah, you'd have to expect it. And I said it to the physio. I'll never forget saying to the physio, I said, if I don't get fit, they're going to let me go. And no matter how much Jimmy loves me, and Sandy likes me, and Jimmy Nicholl likes me, the club is paying me wages. They're not going to have a freeloader. And that's just that's standard. I just didn't seem to be getting any better, and I didn't get any better. So that was very hard to take, and you know, it's a horrible thing to get told that you're not wanted. You know, and for anybody in any fashion, you know, whether it's a wife or a husband or you know, any type of work. Because as a footballer, you're sort of, when you're younger, you're always in demand. We need you to play today. We want you to play. Will you come and play for us? We'll give you this if you play for us. And then all of a sudden, when that turns and they go, right, look, you're not worth it anymore. So good luck. You know, we can't keep you here. It's a horrible thing. And I didn't actually realize how depressed I was until years later. You know, and I'm still very bitter about it because, again, I won't go in. I'll do it on another show. I'll start my own podcast and I'll go on that and I'll talk about that there where I can take up a lot of time. But I'm still very bitter about leaving Aberdeen. And even in the night out, we had a few drinks after that. We had our end of the season party, which the club has every year. You have a few drinks, and I remember I was having a pint with Sandy, and he goes, "Richie, we actually thought you were going to be the captain. We thought you were going to stay, and you know, we thought maybe one day you'll be the captain at some point. You know, because I think I had that in me to raise my game and to be a prominent defender. Because again, in my head, I think I was the best defender of that club, right? Like, I don't think any of them could defend the way I could defend, right? One, like on the ball, I think obviously I wasn't the best player, but I think as a defender in my head, I was the best, right? And I thought I had the best attitude, you know. But look at Considine, his attitude, unbelievable, you know. And he is that type of player, you know. And that is the level that I wanted to get to. And I think that's what they could see. That they could see that in me, that I could get to that level, be consistent, be a good defender. And I think they wanted me to play centre half because I was better at centre half. They eventually wanted to move me inside, get on a left back, and then it'd be, you know, a toss of whoever in centre half then with you. But yeah, it was a bitter pill to take. It's very tough emotionally. A horrible thing to hear because I loved the club and I loved all the lads. I was settled there, you know. It was great. So yeah, for any footballer, and it happens at every club, every season, people are told they're not wanted, and it's the best job in the world. So when you have the Copenhagen's and the, you know, all these big games, but when that happens, that side of it happens, it is the worst. You just want the ground to swallow you. And Jimmy had to say to me, so he pulled me in the office, and he asked me a couple of questions that I thought were a bit weird, you know. And I thought, why is he bleeding asking me this, you know? Because I was due to sign a new contract. And then my hamstring went again. And he said, Rich, we're going to have to let you go. He said, the deal has been pulled. You're not signing a new deal. So I can't give you an. And it was like a knife in the heart. I swear to God. I went out to my car and I was crying in my car and I just felt like I was going to get sick. And I don't know if you've ever felt like that. It's like I can't even explain it. It's like, I think when someone
definitely that type of feeling.
Yeah, it's the worst thing you can go through. Well, it's the worst thing. It's one of the worst things I've gone through. And to leave Aberdeen at that time, I just felt I just thought I had a lot more, and I felt I had a lot more to do, and I just thought the injury just ruined everything. And I thought I had a lot more to show. And it just feels like, do you know what it feels like? Unfinished business that you'll never get to finish. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
It's a horrible thing to live with, you know. So yeah, that was basically how that went, you know.
Yeah, that's possibly could be another thing, you know, they might need to look into for more support systems around that sort of thing, to deal with players leaving clubs and things like that.
I definitely think in football there's a great need for that, you know. We don't hear a lot of stuff that goes on, you know. Even I don't hear a lot that goes on. And to be honest, as a player, an ex-player, and other lads that I know, like, I probably there, even though we talk, like I talked to Steve Lovell, he had to sort of retire, his ankle stopped him as well. And we'll talk, but we'll never really talk. And I'll never really say, Stevie, how do you actually feel? You know, and how are you getting on? You know, and you know, how do you feel about not playing? Because it's just sort of stuff we sort of don't really talk about, you know, as players.
Like the wound you don't want to reopen, isn't it?
Yeah. So there's a lot of fellas going through a lot of stress and you know, trouble that, and we don't really, and you know, the football community doesn't really talk about it and acknowledge it. You just think, well, get on with it, because the next player is always coming. And we just sort of forget, you know, about the lads. But yeah, it's something that I think needs to improve. And, you know, there is avenues of improvement. There are people out there that are helping. You know, there's a company called X-Pro that do a little bit. The PFA do a little bit. The FA down here do a bit. But I still think more could be done for it, you know. But it's just a part of football. And if players aren't prepared for it, it's a big shock. And that's another thing that I'm trying to help players with, preparing themselves for that disappointment or that injury, or, you know, the worry of when you are too old to play, what do you do? You know, because it happens to everybody.
Yeah, and sort of moving on to life after football. How is life after football? I think you moved into coaching, personal training. Mr. I smell mighty fine. And just sort of how's that going? And sort of, do you still keep up with sort of Aberdeen as well? How things are going?
Yeah, well, I always look at the games. I follow Aberdeen on Instagram. I'm probably more on Instagram than I am on Twitter. I need to get back on Twitter. But yeah, I like my first couple of years. I'd say my first 5 years out of football was horrific. You know, I'm very lucky that when I played semi-pro in Dublin, I trained as an electrician as well. So I'm a qualified electrician. So I always sort of knew I could go back to that, but I didn't want to go back to it. So I wanted to learn about injury, how to sort of recover from it to help myself, but also how to stop injury happening in other players, because I didn't want anybody to go through what I went through. So I became a personal trainer. I did that for a few years. Obviously, you have the baggage of football for the first 4 or 5 years, which tends to be a lot of money that you owe out, that you're trying to recoup because your expenses are high. So it took a bit of time. I moved to London. It took a bit of time to get back on my feet, to establish myself in London. And that, I'd say, those first 5 years were up there with the hardest 5 years of my life. And then, I moved into a very tough gym to work in. It's a high level gym. And you got to be really good. So I had to build up a little bit, get a bit stronger, sort of look a bit better, have a bit more about me. It then turned to me to actually become a seller, and I'm selling myself, So it was quite tough to get your mind into money making mode as opposed to just focusing on playing football. You're not thinking about performance anymore. Now you're thinking about flipping hell. I got to make money. I got to get back into sort of civilian life, 9 to 5 type thing. So that was a tough transition. But once I got there, it started to pick up. I then, lucky enough, I was able to fund my master's degree in strength and conditioning. So I finished that off last year, and I got a 2-1 in that. So I did all right.
Well done.
And then I've done me coaching badges. So I'm up to the B license on that. So I'm progressing now. I'm doing quite well, making a decent living, doing the personal training. And then I've done bits with football clubs as well. So I was doing Swindon Town strength and conditioning last year. And so I've done bits. I was coaching a couple of kids teams as well. So I was doing quite a lot. So it's all been going very well. Excuse me. But I just realised I couldn't just make a name off I used to be Richie Byrne, the footballer. No one cares. No one cares. You got to keep moving forward, and you got to keep progressing. Excuse me. You got to keep progressing. You got to keep improving no matter what you're doing. Excuse me. Sorry. So yeah, I realised I had to retrain. I couldn't just go into a club and say, listen, I'm an ex-footballer. Let me train your lads. I had to get a piece of paper. I had to get some sort of qualification. I had to get more, and I had to improve. So that's what the process has been, and it's been a tough journey, but it's been a great journey as well because I've learned a lot. I've met a lot of amazing people, and when you really push yourself, the luck comes to you, and things fall into place. And it's an awkward transition for a lot of players to go into normal life. But I think if you find something that you enjoy and something that has meaning and value towards your own life, you'll make that transition a lot easier, and you'll be more successful. So I think that's the good thing about me. I have a purpose. I feel I have a purpose in what I'm doing, and I'm quite intent on achieving it, and it means a lot to me. It means a lot to me to help people and make sure no one gets injured. So that's what I'm focusing on. And I actually did me thesis on hamstring injuries. So I did a big 12-week training protocol on training hamstrings. So like there's a lot of meaning towards it, and it's great for me now to feel I have a purpose, and it helps me not play football because it's a big hole in your life when you're not playing anymore. And then you look at the results and you look at the team are doing so well and they're doing great. I wish I was there. Or you watch a match, and when I'm watching an Aberdeen game, I'm like a lunatic. It's mad. It's mad. I'm as bad as any fan. So rest assured, when all the fans are shouting, I'm doing the same thing, right? I'm feeling the same thing, and I'm probably saying a little bit worse than what fans would be saying. So I'm there with you when you're watching games.
Oh well, no, that's great to hear, and it's also great to hear that despite the struggles after leaving Aberdeen, not only do you still follow the club, but you've managed to build up something that's you're now enjoying in yourself, and it is really great to hear.
Cheers, lads. Yeah, it is. It's fantastic. I'm very fortunate. I'm very fortunate to have played, because there's better players than me that never played to that level and never got to play in big games. So I do count myself very lucky to got to where I've got to. So I'm very thankful. And the Aberdeen fans on the whole were great to me. So it was a fantastic time, and it's great to actually be able to talk about this now, because I think a few years ago I wouldn't have been able to talk freely and being comfortable to talk about leaving and going through what I went through, but I think now I'm starting to get over it, and you do hold that the bit of bitterness because you left, but it's I look back on it now with a lot of fondness, and it was an amazing time, and I hope it was an amazing time for the fans, and I think it was. It was a very successful time.
Yeah, it was a fun time. Certainly we hadn't been through a lot of fun memories before Jimmy came to the club. So yeah, he did bring some good times back to the club. It was just a shame he never got to bring any silverware to the club that I think his probably time at the club deserved. But Richie, obviously you touched there that maybe a couple of years ago you wouldn't have been able to speak as openly as you have to myself and Callum. So I just want to thank you for not only responding to our request to come on, but then following up and coming on and speaking so openly and passionately about the club. It's really come across well how much the club meant to you.
No problem, lads. Listen, thanks for having me, and I'm glad to come on the show. And it's actually therapeutic for me, so it's great.
Callum, that's the word we like to use when we do our reviews, isn't it? Therapeutic.
That's just funny you should mention that. It's basically therapy for us whenever we do a podcast as well. Just get it out there and it's fine. But I definitely echo Glen's thoughts, and thank you very much for coming on. Don't think we could ask for a better guest to share all those stories. Very open. First proper guest we've had on, I suppose you could say.
Yeah, definitely. And we have messaged a few of your old teammates. We've messaged Chris Clark, Lee Miller, amongst others, Kevin McNaughton. But you were the first to come back, and yeah, as Cam says, we couldn't have asked for a better first guest, Richie. So really appreciate you taking the time tonight.
No problem, lads. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
All right, all the best.